Today's child is bewildered when he enters the 19th century environment that still characterizes the educational establishment, where information is scarce but ordered and structured by fragmented, classified patterns, subjects, and schedules. Interestingly, that quote was from Marshall McLuhan in 1967. I wonder what our children are thinking about our classrooms today. We live in a world that is led by digital media. Children already have iPads, iPhones, and smartphones, tablets, laptops, and multiple video game consoles. I remember the day my family bought our first color television. It came with a remote control. My dad would say abracadabra, and magically the television would turn on and off. It was days before my siblings and I figured out that there was a remote and what it did. There was an element of magic to it all at the time. Today's generation of children have no sense of what life was like without the technological advances that we know today. When I was young, I had a clear vision of what my future would look like. There were specific jobs I was interested in, and I knew what I had to do to keep my options open for myself. What I learned primarily from my parents, my teachers, and my textbooks. Today, the real-world connections my students make to topics we discuss in class is quite amazing. They see visuals and bold headlines on newspapers and magazine covers while in line at the grocery store. They hear the news in the evening. They generally have access to the World Wide Web and all of the information, both good and bad, which comes with it. We have had up to this point an education system based on the principles of standardized organizational practices. Our traditional organized practices fit a generation of workers who will not necessarily fit the jobs or the world of 2030. Instead of trying to create another generation of students who are excelling in academics and fit a mold we have created, we are now approaching students with the understanding that we must foster choice and flexibility. Children are now being taught for jobs that have not yet been invented. They must be allowed to develop their individual talents, creativity, and adaptability to fit into the jobs that will ultimately be created for them. When we do not know what the future holds, these qualities become increasingly important. In Web 2.0 and Emergent Multiliteracies, Brian Alexander points out that while students continue to write on paper, they are no longer limited to paper or to learning within the walls of a classroom. Students now have an array of digital technology-based tools to choose from, and, as Alexander points out, they will create their work in whatever genre will emerge in the next 10 minutes. Michael Wesch points out in his Britannica blog that despite appearances, our classrooms have been fundamentally changed. There is literally something in the air, and it is nothing less than the digital artifacts of over 1 billion people and computers networked together collectively, producing over 2,000 gigabytes of new information per second. While most of our classrooms were built under the assumption that information is scarce and hard to find, nearly the entire body of human knowledge now flows through and around these rooms in one form or another. While future technology predictions, such as Vannevar Bush's idea that the camera hound of the future wears on his forehead a lump a little larger than a walnut, must have seemed unimaginable at the time, today it simply brings to mind a GoPro or point-of-view camera worn by many. Technology develops so rapidly, nothing seems unattainable anymore. When my current students enter the workforce, I imagine they will be competing for jobs that require significant knowledge of current technologies. They will be in a world where I imagine robotic arms performing surgeries will be the norm, as the University of Calgary's NeuroArm has already completed image-guided neurosurgical procedures performed with a robot. They will live in a world where artificial intelligence could be a normal part of our lives, as scholars at Oxford and Cambridge universities, among others, are currently using grants to conduct research into safe and beneficial artificial intelligence. The future is both exciting and scary for me. There is so much potential for development, but we must work together to create a world where technology is used safely and in a way that benefits our societies, cultures, and environment. Our children have a big job ahead of them, and we must be sure to prepare them adequately for what is to come.
created using Powtoon.